Hello, I'm Driven D&D, the Disabled DM, and welcome back to Power Up Gamers. Today we're doing a special video. It's going to be a channel update and an introductory video for some guest hosts who's agreed to help me with my channel for a while. So with me, I have Chris and Nate.
Hi.
Hi, I'm Nate.
Awesome. Glad to have you both with us. A few quick things for the channel update, community updates, and then we'll kind of just get to know you guys. We have finalized our outline for our first PDF supplement, and so we'll begin working on the PDF itself here within the next couple days, and we're hoping to release that the beginning of 2017. And given that I recently got a promotion on the part-time job I was working that requires me to work a little less hours each week, we'll get back to more of a regular production schedule for the YouTube channel. Oh, and with having guest hosts, after we have a talk, we'll come up with a reasonable schedule for different releases. And there's a couple other things. In September 2nd, I'm running a one-shot set in the Dragon Grin setting, which will have a member of Absolute Tabletop joining us as a special guest that night. In roughly 2 weeks, I will be having Esper the Bird come on for a one-on-one interview, which is pretty exciting to me because he's one of my big inspirations. And we have some other stuff such as BrigadeCon. We'll be doing one of the 30-day countdown videos. And then I actually have 3 events going on at BrigadeCon. Although only 2 of them are known to be me. One's a DM's panel, then I'm running a launch of a new campaign and a one-shot. And one of those I've signed up as a secret game master. So the players won't know ahead of time who the DM is. So that ought to be interesting. So let's get to know our guest host a little bit. So how about we begin off with something kind of simple, and just how you guys got involved in role-playing and
Well, Chrissy, would you like to go first?
What'd you say, Nate?
Hey, Chrissy, you can go first.
Okay. So I have had a kind of a fits and starts beginning to playing D&D. I originally heard about D&D way back when I was in 7th grade, and unfortunately, just my family situation at the time didn't really allow for me to do a lot of after-school activities, so it just sat on the back burner with this curiosity about the game and wanting to play. And it wasn't until about 2 years ago that I really started to play on a regular basis. And so I have some friends who are my my home gaming group. I host the games here, and they are the ones who taught me how to play. But every time we tried to get a game going, we only would play a few sessions, and life would happen, and we just wouldn't get to play. So about 2 years ago, when Nate was here for a visit, we managed to get a game started, and we've been playing ever since. So that's been second edition D&D, and Nate was actually a real catalyst in getting us interested in playing 5th edition. And I kind of discovered Matt Click's channel, Fistful of Dice, and the Provokers, and all of a sudden, you know, I discovered the OSG through that, and next thing I knew, I was playing 5th edition online with people and really expanding my game repertoire. Since then, I've also played some Shadowrun, and I got to play some Dresden Files, and it's just been a blast. So I've become really obsessed with this hobby.
I think all of us are.
Definitely.
How about you, Nate? How did you get introduced to it?
I got in because I had a really active imagination and I got bored in school. So I started creating these little stories in my mind, you know, kind of daydreaming, and I told them first to my brother, and that started off into this super big episodic like story we used to do all the time together. And then it took me a while until I met, well, not until I met, until I went back to Christie's for a summer vacation that I realized that there's a game for people like me, and they just kind of set a good rule book with it. And from that, I learned that I can turn these little, you know, kind of homemade stories into real games for people to play, and that's essentially how I got into it.
Awesome. That's one of the things I love so much about this hobby, because I'm naturally a storyteller. I grew up around my grandfather, who's Native American, and that's a real big part of that culture, is the elders telling stories, which actually is how I was introduced to the concept of role-playing. And because he would always stop the story and ask the kids what they think the character should do.
Cool.
So
That is awesome.
So that was just awesome, and then I found out there was a game much like Nate 8 did, and it's been in hobby ever since. And so I'm curious as to the perspective of what is the draw for 5th edition for you guys over the older editions.
Well, I think there's so much more material out for 5th edition now. So the group that I play in has been playing 2nd edition, and it's getting harder and harder to get materials. But at the same time, 5th edition kind of goes back to a lot of the values that were in 2nd edition. It's a lot more similar, I think, or at least, you know, our group felt that it was a lot more similar to what we've been doing in 2nd edition. And I have to say that I really love how they've simplified things. There's so much less, you know, figuring out THAC0 and some of that stuff it boggles my mind every time. Luckily, I play a wizard and I don't have a whole lot to worry about with THAC0. But yeah, I think that 5th edition is just a little more simple and straightforward while still having a lot of the great qualities that are in the older versions.
I definitely agree with most of that. One change I have noticed, depending on who your DM for the older editions was, that 5e definitely seems to be more story-based and more narrative with descriptions. Unless you had a really good DM back in the day.
It definitely seems more collaborative now.
Yeah, that's kind of one of my big draws with it. It's very much more of a let's tell this awesome story together instead of the DM saying, okay, here's my story, you guys get to play in it.
Right.
Well, it's not just that. It's also because you're not bogged down with as many rule crunching as other, not even just D&D, just systems.
I think that's part of it, and it's not that it wasn't there in the older systems. I think it was more of we'll leave this to the DM, whereas now it's the system saying, okay, this is an essential part of the system.
Yeah.
Yeah. It seems really trivial, but I also like the new artwork for the
Yeah,
newer books. I mean, they're pretty.
yeah, there's a lot of awesome talent. One thing I'm really excited about, which wasn't available back in second edition days, is the open game license.
Yes. Yeah. Here we've opened the whole genre to having a lot of other people contribute, and it's really enriched the game so much.
As I mean, we got internet YouTube series such as Provokers, Critical Role. We have other awesome campaigns and sessions online. Something back in those days, we never even dreamed it would be an online thing.
So true.
That is awesome. It's free publicity too.
So it's pretty awesome to see how it's advancing. There's a lot more ladies play nowadays than back when I was young. It's a lot more accessible for people with special needs and who have different disabilities, where before they were kind of left out on their own. So a lot has really changed over even the last 20 years.
Definitely.
So, we kind of talked about how you got involved and kind of why we like 5e and RPGs is what are some of the benefits to actually playing that you guys see?
Chrissy, I'll let you go again first.
Oh, I was going to let you go. Well, you know, I think I like to introduce it to youth. I've done it with I've started a Girl Scouts, running off of Gary Asselford's Dungeon Scouts stuff. So I think one of the reasons I do that is, it gets kids off their cell phones. It gets them interacting with each other in a social situation, and certainly that carries over to us as adults too. I certainly find myself looking at my phone more often, hopping on the computer all the time. So this gets us back to socializing with each other. It certainly, helps keep your imagination fired up, and I think it really helps with problem solving and just, all those kind of things that we talk about a lot, but kind of getting your imagination flowing again too. So
Awesome. I definitely agree with all that, especially the social interaction. And what's really nice is you can use it now that it's online like it is. I've DM'd sessions where I couldn't get out of bed because of the arthritis that's in my back. I just was hurting too much to sit up. So there's no way I could have gone to like a gaming store or a convention or even to someone's house. So that's really nice to know that even if you're bedridden or homebound, you can still be part of a social group and interact and have your friends and have a good time.
That's so true. It's amazing, and just meeting people and interacting with people from all over the world. It's great. If I'm going to spend time on my computer, it's nice that I can spend it socializing with other people that have the same hobby and interests that I do.
Exactly. So is there another benefit to it that you see, Nate?
Yeah, it kind of goes back to actually bringing communities together. But throughout history, you've seen that people used to tell stories, and it wasn't until recently, with the advent of TV and movies, that we really stopped doing that. I mean, Homer's Odyssey to sailors to different countries, they all have mythology. They're all stories that they told together as families and groups, and that really separates, or not just separates, but really shows distinction between different cultures and civilizations. And in a way, we're kind of bringing back something that was lost to history. We're telling stories and new worlds and inventing new things to get away from life to with your family, because it has to be a group. It's not just a TV where you're staring and you're just one single person participating. You're really bringing whole groups together and escaping together. It, for me, at least in colleges I've seen, it helped me with my creative writing as well. I mean, this is all based off of imagination and making convincing stories and convincing plot lines. Also experimenting with social values that we see in the world. I mean, you can touch things like misogyny and prosecution of different groups of people, racism. I mean, of course, everyone thinks orcs are the big evil bad guys. That's a great example, and it's a great tool to use to show examples of our own world.
Exactly. And that's one thing I really try to do with almost every character I play is I either use it to try to understand something that someone else has gone through, such as the case of what it's like to be blind. Or to deal with a situation in my life that I'm dealing with. Such as when I lost my grandmother, or I played a character who had recently experienced the death of his mom.
Yeah.
And I kind of used it to watch how the players interacted with him, how the NPCs interacted with him, and I kind of looked through my own personal issues based off of the information I took in. So I think there's a lot of benefits to it. I think it's just an awesome tool or to use for these kind of things, but do it in a fun way that we enjoy.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I know we use it in therapy. We use role-playing sessions for children to adults who have gone through traumatic experiences.
Yeah. And I think children pick up on it so easily. It's almost something like adults have to learn to play pretend again.
Yeah.
That's basically all we are doing.
Yeah.
Whereas kids are just like, okay, hey, this is how we do it, let's go.
Yeah.
And they come up with some of the craziest stuff. But it's so awesome to see.
Always. I use some. I even use my little sisters and brothers as like I'll just ask them what they think a new god would do, and then they'll create lore for me. Like I believe one of the stories was this one god created a glass house on the edge of a sea, and then it got shattered, and that's what made all the dust and sand. I mean, I don't know where she got that from. I don't know if it's original. I don't know if she heard it from someplace else, but it's a beautiful little tale.
Yeah, that's a really awesome little thing. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about other hobbies that you guys have kind of related to what makes you you. I know Chris, for example, enjoys cooking. So.
She's a terrible cook.
I don't know, all those pictures of food look delicious.
No, her food's actually really awesome. She's an amazing chef.
Oh, thank you. It's part of my evil plot to take over the world through food.
Well, you know, they do say the way to a man's heart is through his stomach, so.
That also
Yes,
works
and
for women
I'm
too.
living proof. I'm sure that's how I got my wonderful husband, was through my BlackBerry Pi. So
And I definitely think it works for all gamers, regardless of gender, age. If you can cook, you're in.
you're in. Yeah, I also have always been a big reader, so I think that that really fueled my interest in the game in a lot of ways. I've always been really into reading as an escape, so that's definitely why I game too. I just prefer to escape the realities of the real world, and so reading's always been a part of that. And these games definitely bring those kind of environments to life, and they give you an opportunity to play around in the worlds that you experience through a book. So that's always been big. Of course, then there's the cooking and baking. And I've had a lot of hobbies over the year. I tend to be one of those people who I pick up on a hobby, I do it for a while, and then I move on to something else. So, I've been involved in doing henna, body art. I've done beading, making jewelry with beads, and I've done card making and all kinds of different things. So they just cycle through. So I have a broad range, and they help me in gaming. They tie into the gaming with, giving me some knowledge that I can sometimes build into my characters. So I know Nate's running a really great game for our online group right now, where my character I've drawn from some Native American stuff that I picked up on in different series of books that I read, and so there's a lot that just ties in with that you can pull from all these, from your other hobbies, to apply it to your characters to help bring them to life and really, really make them realistic.
That there definitely is. And reading and writing, I would say, is almost essential to even the storytelling aspect, because that's really what got me hooked when I found out there was a game, because I've told and wrote stories all my life. So I already knew how to make a character with seem male, have a good personality, and how to develop a plot, things like that. I already knew. But it was when I found the game, it gave me that creative outlet for it.
I feel like the writing's a really common thread with a lot of the GMs that we've met. Like,
That's really
it
funny.
seems
I
like a
hate
lot
writing.
of them.
Yeah.
Writers are storytellers, where
Yeah.
I'm not so much a storyteller. I like to experience, so then I have to be more of a player. So
It definitely seems to be a very strong theme within people who kind of take up the role of DM, is that they are some kind of writer or storyteller. It just, there's something with that particular creativity, artistry, that really speaks to people who want to become a DM. It just kind of goes hand in hand. But that's not to say people who aren't natural born storytellers can't become great GMs.
That's so funny. I just hate writing so much. I'm more of a word of mouth. I like debating. I was on the debate team. I mean,
Oh, you
so when it
too?
comes to it, I'm more of auditory. Yeah.
but you're still a storyteller, so
Yeah, I'm still a storyteller, just not very
Yeah,
good at writing.
the
It's way too jumbled.
storyteller doesn't have to be writing, but I definitely see a lot of it going hand in hand.
yeah.
And I kind of laugh because when I was in high school, I was on the debate team. I'm quite good at arguing both sides of a point.
Yeah, same. Even if I don't like to.
So, one of my hobbies that some DMs do and have and some don't is I love studying ancient cultures and how people lived. Uh, to me, things like ancient Egypt, the Celts, Elves, Elves, the Mayans, the Incas, it's, those kind of time periods just can bring so much flavor into a game. Even if it's disguised under, oh, this is a fantasy elf culture. But I found it's really helped me, especially with fleshing out societies in a world, or such as a group of elves, a group of dwarfs, etc. So that's definitely a hobby. I study history when I get time, languages when I get time. So there's a lot of different hobbies. I've seen people really into sports, or who also play RPGs, who come up with some amazing competition type scenarios. Oh, so let's talk a little bit about what we're gonna kind of do with you guys being guests as hosts. I know we each kind of have some ideas for different videos. So you want Nate to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first. So also another thing I'm going to say is that one thing I do as a hobby, though, just kind of go back to that.
Okay.
This is probably a good thing to bring up. Is I'm a rock climber. I'm a camper. I love trail running. I do hiking. I do all of that, and that's a really huge thing that I definitely recommend a lot of DMs to bring up, because when you get to experience those different forms of nature, it can kind of bring your world more life. You can actually say what it smells like. You can say what it feels like. You can say what it feels like when your body's almost dead, as many adventurers probably should be. I mean, with how much they go hiking and camping and into the wilderness and fighting.
It's actually kind of funny because you remind me so much of me when I was young, back before my arthritis days. I used to go 4-hour hikes. Awesome. We have a place called 40 Foot there, and it's basically 40 feet, almost straight up a cliff.
That's awesome.
So we used to climb up that. No ropes, no harnesses, nothing.
Yeah, same. A lot of free rein rock climbing.
So you just remind me so much of me back in those the prime days, is what I like to call them.
Well, thank you for the compliment. So what we're going to bring to the channel is basically just thinking that we're going to bring new content. We're a pair of two new voices in obviously different scenarios. I'm a DM. Chris is a player, and not only are we working together in a game right now, so we'll be able to offer that insight, but also offer just a different voice and opinion, including maybe doing some different video titles that we want to kind of surprise people with.
Awesome. I know you had mentioned possibly doing some live plays.
Yep.
Sessions, which would be awesome. I really like having those. The run shops have been kind of off and on.
Mm-hmm.
I've been leaning more towards those because my time is so booked lately.
I know that feeling.
I know Chris and me had talked about a special video that I'm looking forward to. Oh, that because she's into cooking, we had kind of discussed the idea of doing maybe some kind of collab type video on cooking basically snacks and stuff that gamers would have
That's gonna be awesome.
and can make. And my kind of thinking on it is it's quick stuff, something you could throw together like a 5 or 10 minute break type thing, and or
Right.
maybe prepare 20 minutes ahead of the session and kind of go into some different types of foods, snacks, and just because most gamers, if they're anything like me, our idea of cooking is, okay, what can I throw in the microwave?
Or what can I
more
order
experimentative.
on the phone?
Yeah. Or what can I order on the phone? I think my idea of a good meal is, okay, let's throw some chicken breasts on this pan and stick it in the oven.
Yeah, we'll definitely come up with some good things. Hopefully, some economical things too. I had a really great conversation just yesterday with the GM of my home group, and we talked about why pizza is so popular. And you know, a lot of it's just the economy of being able to have a bunch of people pitch in and pay for it, and get it when it's convenient. Everybody's hungry. Oh, let's pick up the phone and call. So I'm gonna try to come up with some things that are. It's a lot of us older generation gamers, I think, in particular, are. I know for me, I'm starting to have more health issues with the things I
Yeah.
eat. And things that agreed with me when I was in my 20s are not necessarily so friendly anymore. And I know even Nate has said that, you know, he really wants to eat healthier. He's, you know, I think the younger generation that's
Yeah, I want
coming
to go
up now is
pescatarian.
more interested in eating
Yeah.
healthy in the first place.
And
So
I think a lot of that is not just how our culture has progressed, because there's a big difference between people of my generation and my parents' generation who were alive in the 50s.
right.
But even more so now, I think it's getting to the point where the kids growing up are actually doing what we should have done and paid attention to
Not all
what
kids.
our parents
Yes.
were doing.
Right?
Yeah, not all kids, but I think it's a lot more predominant than it was in our days. It's when they actually pay attention and they see the health problems their parents are going through. Oh, they see the mistakes that we made, and they're like, okay, we don't want to make those.
It's true.
And I'm not saying all kids are like that, but I think it's a lot more common nowadays.
It really is. Well, at least I think. But I mean, also, I see a lot of my college friends.
Yeah.
As soon as they start realizing how expensive food is, all that good dieting that they practiced went out the window so
Right.
fast.
Can't get a case of ramen fast enough when you're living a tight budget, right?
I know that feeling. There's been many a month I lived on bread, mustard, and ramen.
That's delicious. Everyone should live that way for a little bit to understand. But that's actually a thing that, you know, I definitely want to bring into my games too, is the type of food that you choose from. So, like, let's say if we all get together, Chris and my whole entire gaming group, when we start playing games, I want to bring a certain type of wine. And since it's so far up in the north and it's cold, it'll be a very hard wine, a very dry, but that way it kind of set the mood and the feeling of it, type of English foods. And then as soon as I get to tropics, I love to do tropical food. It's a kind of, it brings everything even more together and makes it more immersive.
Yeah, that's like totally an awesome idea. I would love if I ever have like a little production area doing and like a picture of like a banquet hall and a castle and this
Yeah.
spread out.
Ale.
Awesome.
Passed out.
Yeah,
Yep.
tankers of ale sitting there. I just think that stuff like that would be so awesome. Even on like a video or clip or short short series is or something like that. I definitely
Yeah.
think would be interesting. And the one thing I think is really a almost a niche for it is that I don't see any other channels doing it.
Mhm.
Right.
I think the closest we have is a newer channel where two guys get together, talk about RPGs, and they drink different kinds of tea.
Oh,
So,
I love tea
so
too.
I think that's definitely a niche that gamers would find interesting because, let's admit it, who doesn't like food?
Right. Yeah, who doesn't like to eat, right?
I guess
Yeah.
it depends what food it is, though. Too.
Yeah, it depends on the food. It depends on what you like as to how much. But really, everyone enjoys a good meal.
It's true.
Yeah.
You can't game on an empty stomach. Everyone just gets hangry.
And there's something about gaming that just stimulates your appetite too.
Yeah.
I found.
Well, it's
So,
kind of like
and-
part of
and
the
I know I've
personal
talked about
experience.
Yeah.
I think there's a couple reasons for it. I think the first thing is the social type setting.
Yeah, people like eating together.
Yeah, it's part of human nature that we like each other's company while we eat. It's been part of culture since the beginning of time.
I should do an episode of bonding and eating and how that brings people together. Like, why family dinners are important, people. Come on.
Right.
So I think that's a big part of it is just that social interaction. But I think there's also something when you are exercising your imagination, your creativity, it's not like the same way a workout out when you start craving food. But there's something when you use mental abilities that you need energy to stimulate that. And that's I think is part of what we try to get with snacks and coffee or soda or whatever we're drinking. And it isn't so much the food itself, it's that mental energy that comes from having it.
Well,
Yeah,
I
I
mean, the
think-
human brain burns about 20% of the body's calories, so yeah.
And we put a lot of energy into our characters, so
Yeah,
I think we put more energy in there than we realize. So
oh, we do. I remember the first time I had done a character on my own. I had wrote out like a 12-page backstory, just to have him die in the first session I played.
no.
That must have been infuriating.
And I was so heartbroken over that because it was like, oh, this was my baby. I wanted to see I wanted to see it grow up and live its life. And is so heart-wrenching that even though I came back next week with the new character, it took me weeks and weeks to recover.
I dread that moment. I haven't lost a character yet. I've had a couple close calls, but I haven't been permanently beyond beyond hope yet. And I'm dreading that moment when this character that I've gotten attached to doesn't make it.
No, see, that's one thing I've came to realize since those days, is because those days we only played in one group. It was a campaign. So until the campaign ended, you basically made a new character. And
I mean,
then we like never be used to the same characters in other campaigns. Now it's like a character dies, okay. Hey, I'll just run the same aim character in a one shot, or I'll use it for this other campaign with this other group.
it seems like in older games, characters died a lot more. At least for my mom, because she used to play it way back then. That she said that her character died constantly. But.
Yeah, part of it is different ways of doing stats. As for example, or back when we only had the option of rolling the dice for our stats, I actually had a really bad set of rolls. My character, his highest stat was 9.
Wow.
Oh, ouch.
Yeah. And back then, 13 was average, not 10. And,
Poor character.
yeah. He was
Yeah.
basically the village idiot that everyone loved.
How long did he live?
One session.
Oh,
Probably would have been a fun character to play because he had all these challenges, but
He was fun to play until a double bad roll. Or we had
ugh.
he wanted to be a knight, so this his mentor, some duke or Barrett, and I forget which, had this wild stallion that wasn't broken in yet. So had him in a special stall, and he had told my character to go mark out the stall. So my character's going in with his shovel and all that, steps on a pitchfork rake type thing,
Oh no.
fails his dex save, stumbles backwards into the stallion stall, who kicks him in the head, and fails his dex save.
Oh,
that was
no.
one cruel DM.
And the DM had us playing it as basically commoners, so we all were like peasants, basically no armor class. It was basic 10. We have 4 hit points. So, but the session up to that point was really fun playing him. And one of these days I'll bring him back as an NPC or something.
Yeah, you have to.
And
Yeah, that'd be cool.
just because he was pretty awesome of a character concept, because I had to build the concept around the stats, because that's how we did it in those days. There wasn't let's build the personality and who this character is first, and then make the mechanics work for that. It was flip-flop.
Which it makes sense that way.
That's one of the great things about the newer updated system, right? Is being able to have your concept and then
Yeah,
assign the numbers so it fits.
yeah,
the concept.
it's really interesting because like I can make this very charismatic and charming young woman and character uh, who's afraid of spiders and scared of the dark, and it doesn't matter her race or class because I can make that fit any of them.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, it does have limitations though. Like especially with a lot of new players, when they're like, "Oh, let's make a character first," without looking at the stats, they're always like,
Yeah.
"I'm gonna make the most badass character I could ever make," and then just make him like the strongest thing. And then when the actual roles come to play, or even just the stats, they're not as good as they want them to be.
Right.
Yeah, it does definitely have its limits. It I would say a 5e mechanically it isn't quite as friendly to new players. They streamlined the rules. Also, the older editions they really seem to explain the rules more.
Mm.
Whereas in 5e, it's kind of, okay, here they are. I think where 5e really draws new players is saying you have the freedom to describe what this spell looks like. You have the freedom of making this personality for your character. But it wasn't quite that way in older editions as much. So I think that's kind of a big change. But we kind of digress as we were talking about different things we're
That's true.
adding to the channel. I'm definitely thinking a cooking type videos with Chris would be an interesting addition.
Those would be fun.
I think there's also some different things I often do, like DM panels, one-on-one interviews with guests, PDF reviews that I
That'll be
think
fine.
will kind of get you guys involved in some of those every now and then. And so I think we've about covered kind of really who you guys are, what you're kind of interested in. And I did want to mention this is a temporary setup. That's why the guest hosts and not co-hosts. Eventually, they will be moving on to doing their own RPG channel. But we wanted them to kind of get their feet wet, learn a little bit about YouTube and how it works. So that's one thing that I'm kind of offering them in exchange for what help and content they'll be producing. One area that wasn't mentioned that I think Nate probably has the most experience in is editing videos.
Yeah, I have a little bit of experience.
So we might actually see a few videos that aren't just live streamed and that have been edited. So that will be interesting.
Yeah.
So, is there anything else you guys wish to tell our viewers? And
Nate?
Just I guess I look forward to sharing our world and our campaign as well. It is homebrew, so it's gonna be a little different and it's a little different setting, and I'm trying to do things a little different way than I've seen other DMs do games and characters and sessions. So
awesome.
yeah, I look forward to that.
Yeah, so I just wanted to say thank you for inviting us to assist with your channel for a while. It's a great opportunity for us to, like you said, get our feet wet and maybe get to know some other people in the community that we haven't got to get in touch with yet. And yeah, we're looking forward to it. We hope we can bring a couple of interesting additional points of view.
Oh, I
Thank
think
you.
it's gonna be a blast. So, with that said, I don't have anything else to add. So until next time, I hope our viewers enjoyed this video and may the dice always roll in your favor.